There was always that last moment, right before he came through the door each evening, that moment charged with dread, hope, and prayer. But for what? When you know that a man has no good side, only variations of his bad side, just what is it that you dread, hope, and pray for? It's a horrible, empty feeling to pray when you don't know exactly what you're praying for, except for the one deep desire you're afraid to voice, that he doesn't come home at all, that he falls madly in love with Ilse, the buxom barmaid at the Gutenach pub, and they run away together. Or better yet, that he's been in a terrible accident and his broken body is lying on Autobahn 5 between Haynau and New Hassenloh, dead. Only he didn't just die. No, he suffered in mindless screaming agony for an eternity of seconds before finally succumbing to the Grim Reaper, who has surely carted him off to hell by now. But wait, I digress. Forgive me. I shouldn't let the daily fantasies I entertain interfere with the point at hand. That particular evening, and the brown leather jacket with a distinctive smell. Every 9 seconds, a military wife is beaten. She is more likely to die in her own home than 80% of combat troops to die on the battlefield. Demoralized and thousands of miles from home and family, the hope of escape can be even further from her grasp than it is for other American women. But for now and then, courage can come from the most unexpected source. A brown leather jacket with a distinctive smell, from the Insanity Cookbook by Jennifer Parker. I was standing at the kitchen sink, a potato in one hand and a peeler in the other. I used to love the smell of fresh raw potatoes as I peel them. Now, I don't even notice if they have a smell. I heard a thunk as his brief haste at the coffee table in the living room and a softer thump of something else that I didn't quite register at the time. He came through the kitchen door as I gave him my practiced Donna Reed smile, as his hand slid down the front of my blouse and over the zipper on my jeans. One hand slipped between my legs, and his fingers pressed hard, and the denim seam cut into me. But I didn't react. It was one thing I'd learned early. Don't react. He backed away from me, taking his offense pause with him. It was part of the pattern. He walked out. I sighed. Patterns. I gauged the evolutionary time frame, the usual patterns. Add 4, carry the 2, consider all variables, subtract 1, oil the joints, add 1 dinner, subtract 4, or maybe 5 baccarides. And what have you got? Who the hell knows? Jenny, he screamed at me from the living room. Get in here! I dropped the potato and the peeler and ran to the living room. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? He laughed. This is what's wrong, you slut! He raised his hand and I saw for the first time, clutched in his talons, a brown leather jacket. I felt a brief moment of relief. After all, what was so terrible about a jacket? What is this? A purple vein was pulsating in his forehead. A jacket? I guessed. You smart-ass little bitch, he shouted. A jacket? He mimicked my innocent question. Yes, it's a jacket. It's a goddamn jacket, you slut. He moved towards me menacingly and raised the jacket above his head. The first blow fell on top of my head with one well-worn sleeve hitting my shoulder. It didn't hurt me at all, and for some reason, I don't really know why, that made me smile. His rage was instantaneous, and I did something unthinkable. I laughed. He made a sound like a wounded animal, pulled the jacket back, and swung it again, this time across my face. I stopped laughing. He reared back and swung again, landing blow after blow across my face with the jacket, each one stinging more than the last as the leather slapped against my skin that was progressively rawer and more tender. I held my arms up in a futile effort to shield my face. Whose is it, slut? He didn't wait for a reply or want one. Who the hell's been in here while I've been working, huh? The jacket's zipper bit into my cheek and the metal stud hit my closed eyelid. A searing pain shot from my eye to the back of my head and I dropped to my knees. I felt blood on my face and I could only see red through my left eye. I don't know, I swear to God, I don't know, no one was here, please believe me, I swear to God. I've never seen that jacket before, I swear, I don't know. He didn't listen, he didn't hear, he didn't know that I was telling the truth. that I'd never seen that jacket before, that no one had been there that day or any day. He didn't know that not only would I never cheat on him, but that his brand of love had cured me from ever wanting a man in my life or my bed again. Ever. He didn't know, he didn't hear, and he didn't listen. Everything was gray and red. He was still swinging, but for some reason, it just didn't hurt anymore. I must not have turned the water tap tight enough, I thought, for I could hear a steady dripping sound. Then somebody down the block started a lawnmower, and I couldn't hear it anymore. The grayness became darker, and my face was so wet. Am I crying? I wondered. I never cry. I forced my right eye open. His left foot was by my face, and it smelled. And as I took breaths between blows, I kept getting a nose full of his disgusting foot smell. But then I got smart. I started exhaling between blows. The jacket came down on my head, and as the sleeve fell across my face, I inhaled deeply, causing the leather to cling to my face for just a second. And I did it again and again. It was old leather. It had a rugged smell. It was a piney odor that, for a brief moment, made me think that I was outside, lying on the grass under the pines of my parents' backyards. It was comforting. I breathed and breathed, wanting to suck that jacket into my lungs, to absorb the fabric of my own being. I wanted that smell, that wonderful, distinctive smell, to stay with me forever. Suddenly, I remembered the sound I'd heard when he first came home, the sound of him putting something down in the living room, and I knew. He brought it here. He was beating me as some part of sick game that only he knew the rules to. I never found out whom that jacket belonged to, and I don't suppose I ever will. That as I huddled there, I knew something more important. That he had brought it into our home to punish me for a crime that only happened in his sick mind. I don't know if he kept hitting me after I passed out or if he'd finally have enough of the game by that time, but it really doesn't matter. Because the gray became black, and I had only one thought. It wasn't dread or hope or prayer. I didn't wish for him to run away with Ilsa the barmaid or to die on Autobahn. No. My only thought was freedom, emancipation, and a brown leather jacket with a distinctive smell. One that I hadn't known in a long, long time. The distinctive smell was my life. And I took that jacket with me when I left.